Okay. Alrighty. Ugh. I was trying to film something and the bloody camera went all. So yeah, I do apologise to all you folks who decided to subscribe to me. I sort of like went from 3 to 14 in like less than a week. It's like, okay, maybe I'm not a complete raving nutter after all. Maybe I have got something worth saying, worth listening to, worth contemplating. I believe I do. I believe I've got some great ideas that I want to get out there. Hi Tracy. Yeah. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch up with all my latest shit. I won't go into that because I like to keep my work life and private life completely separate from one another so that I can keep my job, because you know, it's good to be able to pay my bills. If I lost my job, I'd be fucked. Isn't that great being alive in this modern era where you just have to be a slave so that you can survive, to get by. So I'm not really sure if I'm ready to tell this story yet, but let's just see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, I'll not hit share YouTube, write a title, put a description in on this one. I'll just delete it. But it's a pretty good story, and it's a true story. I'm not making this one up at all, and my memory hasn't been affected by all the years of drinking and smoking. This is one thing that has stuck with me all my life, and I might even need a bit of a star tetrahedron just to sit there to help me focus on this true story. Now, back in the day when I was a youngster, my favourite uncle died when I was 8 years old. He was an awesome, beautiful, lovely fellow. Everybody loved him. He was just a really, really great guy. He was like a big brother to me. You know, I grew up with him. Uncle Chris. Christopher. But he died at 19 years of age from brain tumours, and it always stuck with me that it was his 8th operation. Look, I can't even think and talk about him without tearing up. It just sends me back. 8th operation on his brain tumour that he didn't survive, unfortunately. It really, really, really bugged me that my parents wouldn't take me to visit him when he was in hospital before he died. They took my younger sister, but they said to me, no, you don't want to remember him like this. So they're probably right now, but it really bugged me. Anyway, it was soon after that my parents used to live at the bottom of Mount Panorama, where the famous racetrack is in Bathurst. And we moved out to this block of land that was allotted adopted to my mother. She was the oldest of 9 kids, which then became 8 after Chris died. But my grandfather, he was awesome. He was just a really smart man, high school science teacher. And yeah, he grabbed hold of a lot of this cheap land back in the days, and then for the inheritance for all his kids, he gave them a block of land when they turned 21, I think it was. It might have been 18. But, so we had our block of land, and it was in, get this, Eugenie Street. I mean, Eugenie isn't the most common name. He lived on Godfrey Street, and they even named a street after him down where they got the dog food and Mars Bar factory still to this day down there, called Lavis Street. Elmo Lavis. The local kids used to call him Elmoo because he always kept cows. He used to milk, fresh raw milk. That's what I grew up on, at least, so I didn't get that pasteurised shit. He was one of those ones dead set against pasteurisation too, it turns out. Kill off all the healthy living enzymes that makes it indigestible. Hence why so many kids these days have lactose intolerance. Anyway, we moved out to there, and he actually used to give me a job, you know, for a bit of pocket money. I'd get 20 cents a day, which was a fair bit, you know. I was making $1 a week. It was good money for a kid my age. By riding over the railway tracks, you had to go through the 2 gates to get there, and fill up the water troughs for his cows, which were the old bathtubs. And I was happy to do that for a bit of pocket money. And I used to spend a lot of my spare time hanging around the railroad tracks. And in fact, just down the road from me, down Eugenie Street, was pretty much, that was just near where the Raglan railway station probably, yeah, would be still there to this day. And it's at the top of this hill. It's a gradient, and in fact it all makes so much sense about why the earth is flat. And this hill, this gradient between Bathurst and Raglan, it's known as either Bathurst Hill or Raglan Hill, depending on your perception, and it was like the steepest gradient between the plains of Bathurst and Sydney. It used to, through all the blue mountains in between, they'd tunnel through everywhere because trains cannot handle big gradients, which, as I say, is a clue to the flat earth, because if you looked into it, if engineers had to account for 8 inches of curvature for every mile, there's very few engines could actually cope with that. It puts a massive load on them. So there you go. Look into it, trains and engineers. So anyway, by living and hanging around the train tracks all the time and having to cross them constantly, doing chores and making a bit of pocket money, I became very familiar with trains, and you know, they were like a little, almost a good friend of mine. You know, I'd go down there with my brother quite a bit, and his friends, and some of my friends, but mostly I was on my own, and I'd get to hang around them, and you could soon learn to tell when a train's coming. You could actually put your ear down on the track and hear if there's a hum, and know if there's anything around. This is just the sort of stuff we did growing up as kids. And in fact, you know, we were always taught to be very careful. My grandfather was particularly, you know, he was one of these kids, he got, you know, a thrashing when he was a kid from his father, because they were told never to play around the train tracks. And yet there was this place where they grew up where they had a turntable for all the trains, and him and his brother were hanging around there, and his younger brother, one of them, got killed in an accident by it, and so of course that's why he got his thrashing, because they weren't careful enough, and this turntable just, you know, it's just a kid stuck in there, we'll just keep turning it around anyway. And so that's why he grew up pretty strict with my mum, had my uncles and aunties in that family, and why it was really devastating too when he lost his youngest son, Chris, to the brain tumour. So anyway, after a while, I don't know how old I was, maybe, I think it was about 10 or 11, I would have been. I was just big enough to start riding one of these 10 speeds. I used to have the BMX, I'd ride that around all the time. Pull up monos, yeah. Do as many pedals as I could on the mono. I think my record was about 16 until I once hit another record. I did over 20 and lost count. But my 10 speed, that was my pride and joy. I loved that bike. A beautiful big 10 speed racing bike I bought off an older friend of my brother, older brother. And anyway, they brought out this new super fast train. It was called the XPT, the Express Train or something. It was awesome. We went down to the train station for the opening of it. And I asked Mum and Dad, like, can I go and touch it? And they were like, yeah, okay. So I went up and touched it. It's like, yeah, it's a train. It's made out of train stuff. But after about a year or so of this train running on these tracks, where farmers, just like my grandfather and everybody we knew, you'd have a gate on either side of your level train crossing. And it's just common sense. You'd look left and right. When you opened up the first gate, you'd drive through, you'd park on the tracks, you'd go and shut that gate, you'd go and open your next gate because you didn't want the cows getting onto the tracks and causing mayhem. You'd open the next gate, drive through, get out and shut that gate. It was all good until the XPT came along. It was super fast. And all of a sudden there's people getting smashed to death by it, left, right and centre. There was like, I don't know, a huge amount of deaths caused by this train. And because it came out in the papers, and my parents were, you know, like everybody back in the day, read the paper religiously. And they said to me, you know, be careful on the tracks, you know, with this XPT. And I'm like, no worries, yeah, for sure, I'll be careful. I've grown up around trains, okay, so I knew them really well. I could put my ear down the track to know if they're coming. I could hear them coming from miles away. It was not a big deal. So this one particular day, I used to, as I was saying, yeah, at the end of my street, Eugenie Street, it would then hit the 90 degree where it reached parallel to the train tracks. And by that stage, the trains had reached the top of the hill. They got past Raglan Station, and then they'd start picking up speed because they'd reached the top. So I used to sit up there on my bike and wait for them. And when they get there, I write, okay, on your mark, get set, go, and I'd race them across this long dirt road, which is long, flat and level. And the train drivers used to see me, and they'd be waving and toot them on a little bit, and we'd put this big race on and see who could reach to where this bridge was first. It was cool. I just used to kill a bit of time doing that. And once you reached this bridge, that was when I knew I had to start applying the brakes, because then the road deteriorated into this rickety track and went downhill a bit, and then the trains would be, they'd got all their speed, and off they'd go into the Blue Mountains, into the tunnels, and on their way to Sydney. But one particular day, I went a bit further. I'd done it several times before. It wasn't that big a deal. And when you get down the bottom of this rickety track, and then you're on these goat tracks, I thought I might see how far towards Lithgow I might get on my bike. And I got not that far, a kilometre or two maybe. And the road was just too shitty, full of these corrugated, you know, as you get in these dirt roads, just corrugated. It wasn't good to ride on this thin-wheeled 10-speed bike of mine. So as I'm coming back, it was a beautiful sunny day, middle of the whatever season, I got no idea. Wasn't hot, wasn't cold, beautiful day. When I came back and crossed back over to the tracks again, before where the bridge is, I just decided because it felt completely safe, for no particular reason, to stand in the middle of the tracks. Bike in my hands, and I was just standing there enjoying the bliss of a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. You know, cicadas humming. But I'm standing in the middle of the tracks, and this is the weird bit of this story. I know, with no uncertain terms, thoroughly, I was standing in the middle of the tracks, bike in my hands, daydreaming a bit, but I did not step off. I did not. I didn't move. I was standing there. And then I had one of those moments where, you know, when you daydream, sometimes when you're driving and you suddenly realise, oh, you're still driving and you've just been a longer distance. And you realise you're still on the road, so you're not doing anything wrong. Well, it was like that. But all of a sudden, the XPT train came whooshing behind me, almost sucked me back in with the backdraft, and I'm standing next to the tracks with my bike still in my hands. Now, there's 1,000 explanations you can give for what happened, but in truth, I know what happened. I was standing on the tracks. Then I'm standing next to it with the train whooshing past. And I sincerely believed, even at that time, that my parents grieved for the loss of their child, because there's no way I could have possibly have been next to the tracks when I know I was standing on it. I was tempting fate, particularly because my parents had said to me that very morning, be extra careful on the tracks, and I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And so I was being that little bit, you know, what you do as a kid when you're 11 years old, and you just, don't tell me what to do, Mum and Dad, But the weird thing is, wherever I went through this, in this time junction, where I went, even as a kid, I was going back there time after time after time, trying to find this place that I went to, because honestly, you know, people that have done drugs or have the most ultimate orgasm or all these other things that we've all tried, none of them compared to the place that I went to in that moment in between being on the tracks and being next to it. I went somewhere. I went through a portal, and I'd go down and stand in that same spot. I tried standing sideways and stepping through whatever it was. I went trying to do the time warp again. Whatever it was, I did. Could never find it again. And it just left this big empty hole inside of me that said, are there parallel universes? Have I just gone from one to another? And there's something I have to do in this one, but something happened back there in that one. Nearly killed me, and makes me think it obviously didn't, because here I am having this rant, telling this tale about what happened to me that day. And a lot of people think I'm a bit cuckoo, and it probably started from that time. It honestly did. And I've had dreams ever since where I've actually had memories of where I went during that time. I don't think I should tell you what I saw in those dreams, but there is this, it's another dimension, it's a parallel, it's not parallel, no, it's not a physical realm. When you're in this realm, everything about it orgasmic bliss. It's beautiful. And it's timeless. You know, there's no time there. It's just this amazing, amazing realm. And so when you know it exists, well, it kind of makes you fearless too, because, you know, when I leave this realm, I know that that one's there with all my ancestors there waiting. Now, the only one that showed her face, she was surrounded by these people, and I knew they were my family, but they were kind of shrouded in veils of light, is the only way to explain it. This coloury shroud over them. But you could feel the bliss emanating from them saying, yeah, you are one of us. You can't join us yet. You got to go back and do what you got to do. So here I am, doing what I got to do. And I've been there a couple more times in this life. I have actually, physically or mentally or psychologically, I don't know. There is no physical really. Like what you think is physical, what feels like solid wood, what hurts, what rocks, is 99.9999% empty space anyway. So everything's a bit of a figment of the imagination. So this is the world of illusion that we all live in. But I can assure you there really is another dimension that we go to. Most people, I guess, traditionally call it heaven. And that's as good a name as any. Like, what else would you want to call it? It's not like you're burning in the fires of the sun, Lucifer. Maybe that is hell. But one thing I know, I can guarantee, is that the fires of hell are what you create, because you know better. It is the fires of your own remorse for the things you did wrong that you wish you did better. And when you go there and you pay your price and say, I promise next time when I go back, I will do it better. I will do it better. I will do my best to be the best I can be. That's how this is kind of like a Groundhog's Day realm. Yeah, this could be heaven or this could be hell. And it can be hell because you burn in the fires of your own remorse, or it can be heaven because you're going to do it right this time and say, right, this time. It's not about me, it's about what I can do for you. And we have to make this realm on earth as it is in heaven. It's not a religious dogma crap. It's not. It's about making bliss, heavenly bliss, abundance, exactly as our creators have planned all along. We can make heaven on earth. We can do this on our own. It's such fun. Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you. Oh, such a perfect day. You just keep me hanging on. You just keep me hanging on. you know what you'll reap. Just watch your soul.